the intro to the game. Um, Real quick, I will start up the game. The screen now is new. It is, as you can see, reading it is typewriter text, and it is the intro to the game. This will also be on the back of the video game when it's released on hard copies. Um, I will stay on this page so that way you guys can read it all. But overall, I will be reading from a document as well as having the game open while I'm going over stuff. I'm actually very excited to do this because it's the first video that explains everything. Alright, so that's the intro to it. And as you can see, I fixed this right here. In the last video, I didn't have the names done up. And if you hover over the add buttons, it actually explains what each stat does. That is new. Um, then we got this. This is a jail cell. And this is going to be used in like PvP and other stuff to where you can actually right here open all, close all the cells, open them all. It has an alarm, spotlights, and all that fun. And then you can actually see the cameras and where they're pointing. The hacking system will allow you to hack into most electronics that will be in the game. These little things here are just ore that I'm picking up because I'm gonna be really quickly hopping over here so that way I can show you the bank because I didn't have anything in my inventory when I did the bank last. But as you can see now, I picked up 2 clay, 1 copper, and 4 gold ores. And I am now going to switch over to the development document. And this is where we're starting. The player base stats are the ones that I seen during character creation. Player expertise, they're special things that enhance the gameplay. Their specialties on what you can do in class specs, and they all have a base stat that it's based off of and added to. So let's say for bluff, your charisma was 6, your bluff would automatically be 6 plus whatever bluff ranks you have. As you can see, it's a huge list of them. There's 9 different damage types. And right here, I'll leave the screen open so you can read some of this. Okay. Sorry, I have to do this real fast. There we go. And then what level am I even in? I think this is a haunted chapel. Yeah, this is a haunted chapel I picked. Okay. Here, yeah. What's the story to? Remember? Here's what's loading. The weapon armor system. Um, armor is made up in four aspects. The first is base, then the enchantment and enhancement sockets. Sockets are for gemstones. All that will enhance weapons as well as armor. Um, Depending on the armor type, it will change your base stats. Well, um, so you want to make sure that you're picking the right armor for your build. And for this is plus 25% wisdom, plus 25% intelligence, whereas this is plus 50% dex. That's because there's two pluses. Now, if you go down to the weapons, you have the same thing. The elemental weapons, I don't think I'm going to actually implement because that ended up being really buggy when I tried it. Leveling up your gear. Weapons and armor can be leveled up. That way you can get extra, like, bonuses for it. And the way to level it up is lunar phase. That just is a fancy way of saying how old it is. The older it is, the more lunar phase it will have. Kill count. Uh, this is when you kill with that weapon, it will go towards experience. And these are all experience based, point based system experience. So once you kill enough people, then it will level up. Um, Now the third one is healing aura, and that one is how much you're healing people. That is so that stuff, weapons and armor that is meant for healer, caster types, and stuff like that can level up their gear even though they're not doing much damage. Bloodbath. That is how much damage is actually being done. That's not kills, that's actual damage that you're dealing. And that's the four types of leveling up. There are tons of pop-up notifications in the game. And as you can see, right now the monsters are not walking around, but that's because there's a bug in it right now and that I gotta fix. But I can at least destroy them and get them out. Oh, I didn't want to die. The call friend dynamics has not been implemented yet, and it's still up in the air whether or not I'm doing it. Same with soul paints. Um, Dynamic objects. There are tons of them in this game, but I will go over some of the basic ones. Uh, Basic explosion or shockwave. That's typically like exploding barrels or things that have an area of effect. Recovery objects. Those are like health kits and other, needle, potion needles. Then there's spell casting. Those are objects that cast a spell that's already in the game when you use it. Similar to that is a buff or a curse that applies it to whoever activated the object. Computer system, it's kind of complicated in a way. However, it is well worth it because that is how you start getting hacker gear and everything else. And so, if you take the time to learn it, and it's a cool little side system that's in the game. It's not needed. You don't have to know it, but it is there for those who wish to explore the options. Especially when you're adding electronics to your own keep and you're adding cameras and other things similar like that. You might want to know it. That way you can prevent hacking. Speaking of the camera system, there is several types of cameras. Some are the pre-built security towers, and these are ones that are already in place. You just need to be activated somehow. Next is hacked, and those are found throughout the world, and they're in possession. Like monsters kind is in possession of them, and you have to actually use hacking gear to get it. But when you hack a camera, you'll also be able to see what that camera is, just like if you were to hack it in real life. Now you can hack mechanical type creatures, but that's way down the line. However, it's important to note that mechanical type creatures, their eyes work like cameras, and therefore you can see through mechanical type creatures. Biolink creatures, um, you can see through their eyes, except for when you see through their eyes, you see the same type of vision that they have. Like if they see by echo or they see by electric, then that is what you would see if you try and look through their camera eyes. Um, the portal arch will have a camera on both sides that just kind of gives a generalized idea of a warp space. Uh, think Doctor Strange, how you when he makes those circles in the air, how he can see the other side through it. No, they're gonna be your all basic types of doors, basic locked, motion, sensed, remote open, elemental doors. These are the ones that are made of pure energy. In another video I went and showed you some of the frost walls, which was literally walls made of ice that can only be seen with the frost vision. That would be an elemental door. The glyph lock, now that requires a specific spell to be cast at it in order to open the door. That is used mostly for puzzle making. Um, there's dynamic containers. Those are just your basic any video game. Creature objects are like mimics or other objects that are you wouldn't think were monsters, but that are actually monsters in disguise. You have item pickups. Uh, you got elemental shards. They, because of all the customization in this game, that is what gives any of your customization stuff the element types. So they become very important later in the game, especially in the crafting and merchant aspect. Um, there is going to be mini games. I'm not going to go over them in this way, nor will I go over the portals because there's so many different types. But I will save that for another time. Scrying, it works very similar to how cameras work, except for rather than you seeing it on your screen, it's more like a 3D hologram of an event, like a cutscene almost. Brain are IQ objects, and what it is all the different creatures of that type that link up to it um, will remember certain data. Like, will remember if when they cast fire, you were weak against it. So then all creatures that share the same brain will then attempt to cast fire at you because they know your weakness. However, if you destroy the brain, it resets all that data. You can also hack the brain to modify the data. Crafting stations, there's plenty of that, and I will go over each one individually on another video. It has its own development document because of how in-depth the crafting is in this game. This is just about development nodes. You generally get loot from trash mobs. That's your most common way, along with containers. When you do kill monsters, almost always they will they will drop a transmog item that you use to enhance your weapon or armor. But they can also be used to give to a collector. And the collectors pay a handsome price for them. You can use the items, you can give it to a researcher, which then will give you bonuses against that creature once you have given them enough and enough research has been done. I just talked about the transmog system. Spells. The other thing you can do it, you can use them for spells, and when you use it as a spell component, that system is very advanced, and again, something that probably have to be a later video. Just know that there's 10 different aspects to the spell, and creature part is just one of many. Mini bosses. These are your generalized mini bosses in any game. Same with bosses. Chests, they're your typical in any game. Some items such as runes, herbs, and some random items can be found in the open, like they have actual object interaction. Like you had seen me earlier when I picked up those ore nodes, that would be considered wild. This harp will eventually be able to be picked up, the one I'm messing with now. The harp will teach you a different song to sing, kind of like the Zelda series with all the flutes. It's a similar system. Um, there will be cursed items, and they operate quite uniquely because each cursed item has a place in the game where it is supposed to go. But so long as you hold on to it, and you can't destroy it, you have to deliver it to get rid of it. But it will give you a debuff, a slight debuff to your stats. And usually when you pick them up, it's not like well known what they are when you try and pick them up. So there's a good chance that you can run into a few of them. There's different types of currencies in this game, and gold is the most common. That's just like any video game's money. Gold bars, that is mostly used when you are making your city. Yes, you can make an entire city in this, but it's used to buy houses and upgrades for your city. That's the general one. Sapphires is used for lawful good type buildings. Those are like your law enforcement or other, and you have to do them by doing good and deeds and generally working with a lawful good type standing. Blood diamonds are the exact opposite, and they're more given by the chaotic evil missions, greed and stuff like that. They're fueled by sin. And speaking of sin, that's a whole other topic because all seven sins and all eight virtues are in the game as a creature. Now, fingers, um, there is a city that is completely filled with serial killers, and it is the currency they use. And how you get them is by completing bounty quests. You have to take the finger off of them to prove that you killed them. City creation. Uh, you're able to buy the places from a guy, and some buildings you must find a blueprint. Others require certain quests be done, achievements or skills be taken. There's tons of ways to unlock many different buildings that you can place in your city. With the exception of a few shops, you can build just about anything that is already in one of the cities, and add it to your own city. And inventory, I already went over this in the last video. And I'm going to go to another level. let's go look one. Alright, and then let's go back to where I was reading. Okay. Now, when you design your own city, you also get a keep or a castle. And that keep castle you can also use for your cult. But there's different rooms you can buy, and they all give different perks. There's different buildings for the city that gets added onto the keep. Again, they have perks. They give a boost to stuff. Uh, there's tons of different, as you can see, I'm scrolling through the list now of how many different ones you can do. Ads. Now, in the game, there will be billboards and in-game ads that are displayed all over on signs and everything else, but they don't distract you from the game. They are placed just like a regular ad would be in real life, like a sign outside a door or whatnot. However, when you interact with it, it generally will pop open a website that it's linked to if you interact and you want to view more information about it. I'm just wandering around the Monk's Plaza right now, as well while I'm talking talent trees. I will make a whole video of that because I want to go over everything about it, and that would take a good long time. As you can see, scroll, 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 scroll. Factions, those are also in the talent tree. And again, I will go over all that. Divine, crafting trees. Again, all going over when skull system later. There will be a maze system in here, but it's still under development. But the general concept is that it will randomly pick from different segment maps when you go through doors, so you never have the same dungeon twice. In the maze system, it will be programmed to do like a calculation where after you complete somewhere, it'll pick a random number between like 5 and 10. And once you complete that number of random rooms, then it will give you the exit. That will make it so that you're not stuck in an endless loop trying to get out. And after so many, you automatically get out. So that would fix that issue. The rune system is in a way kind of complicated because they're weapons. Tarot cards are buffs where runes are thrown, and they have effects. Like when they hit something, they will cause some type of effect to happen on a hit. The issue with it is you don't pick what rune you're going to throw. You have to pick between 10 and 30 different runes, and it will randomly pick a rune out of that set. Now, there is 5 main factions. Deathly Moons, which is chaotic. Corrupted Clover, which is also chaotic. Lunar Nights, which is neutral. Smiling Gods and Solar Eclipse are both lawful. And I left that there so you can read. The Divine System is complex and endgame. What it is that you literally start doing deeds and make your own followers, your occult uprising, but you do certain deeds in order to advance, and eventually you get a divine rank of 10, and at that point you become a god, and when you become a god at rank 10, you can then choose to create your very own race. That means you can take and mix and match any of the creatures in the game and make your own when you hit that high level. Then your city, the city you created, will be filled with those type of people. And the bonuses to it is that if your city gets attacked, you get all the perks of whatever kind of creature you picked, rather than just randomized people that you are throwing into your city. So the divine system is endgame, but it's a pretty big feature. You can also hire employees. That again, another experimental system that I really hope works out, where you can employees needed for the upkeep of your keep and of your city, such as you can have a standing order that you'll always buy apples for like 1 gold. If you put that down, anyone who shows up at your cult or guild and gives an apple, they will automatically be given 1 gold, and it will come out of the cult's bank account. Or if you're doing it as a person, a single person creating a city, it will come out of that single person's finances. Um, if they don't have the ability to pay, it won't even accept the item from the person. It will black it out. Uh, so it's to run the day-to-day stuff. You can hire security people, people that wander around to protect the city. Like they literally are just walking around the city, and they're paid to walk around the city and protect it. And all this will be built into the system so that it can't be rigged or, taken advantage of. Crafting system, oh man, that's a long one. That will be a whole nother video, just like the skull system. Spell system. I went over this earlier in another video. There is tons of different spells that you can pick. And with that being said, some spells require components that you need in order to cast them. Some require mana, gemstones. Some are morph you. Again, we'll go back to the tarot card, which gives you a buff. There are faction-based spells where you have to get high enough up in the faction, and that faction will teach you that spell. Readable items. There's a ton of content of lore and readable items in the game, as you've seen with my library when I showed you all the documents in it. You find stuff throughout the entire game, and whenever you read something, it will automatically be added to your Astral library, so you can reference it back later. There are general books that are just small hints, backstories, nothing too big. And then there's lore books, which are core. They have a big role and very detailed about the whole system, how the world works, what happened to it, why humans are hiding now. Terminals, those were left by the other races in languages that you can't understand. However, as you start leveling up, you can start researching a language, and the more of that language you have researched, the clearer the terminals become. So you can even once you're high enough up there and you have enough, uh, learned enough to translate it all, you actually get the lore from the other side of it, like how you yourself and the human race is the bad guys. So it's very interesting to have two different points of view in it, depending on how you're reading it. Monster notes are notes that you find throughout the game that just detail different things about monsters, how to kill them, how what they drop, just their basic notes. The map system, it will be a mini map up top here somewhere, and it will be a top down. There'll be icons on it. I'm sure I'm gonna have it customizable. Uh, the environment plays a big part in like what quests are available, your attacks, and everything else. The weather and the environment does affect everything in the game, even down to what season you created an item at, what moon phase, what time of day, what the weather was like, if it was done at a special holy ground place or something. The monster system. There's lots to it, but let's dive right in. Morphing. Now, there are many types of morphing, and I will go over them. Uh, some creatures will morph into other forms once you're high enough level, or as I have called it in the game, the Darwin level. Uh, so the higher up you get, some of the creatures will change on you. Um, some will change with the season. Some will combine and evolve if they're so close together. Like if they accidentally bump into each other, they can combine. Those are special type of monsters, which you usually won't see early in the game. Uh, lunar and daylight morphing, just as it sounds, one changes with the moon phase, and the other one will change with the time of day. The leveling of the monster, it levels up with you. It's all back encoded, all point based, but every time you level, so do they. So that way you're always at the same type as them. You're not going any place that is out of your range because all the monsters are your level, regardless of where you're at. I guess if I was going to use the game as an example, Skyrim did it really well. Uh, and so did Elder Scroll Online. And those are going to be my base inspiration for it. Now, while random spawns may seem completely random, I put a lot of math and thought behind them, so they're not as random as you think, but that's to make sure that it don't overwhelm the player. Mythic mobs are creatures so rare that many still believe don't even exist in the game. Like, actual players won't believe they exist because of how rare it is to see one. Um, alpha mobs are the basically the advanced version of the trash mobs, and they rule the trash mobs, so alphas will summon their subjects. An elite named usually will drop something and have a new technique and a spell, something you can learn from it, something you can craft from it. Elites have a special place in the world, so always try and kill them in the game because they give you some of the best rewards. Mini bosses will take a week in-game time to respawn, which would be 24 hours of real time. The mini bosses can be a bit tricky to find as they roam around the open world maps. Like, they're not really in the main maps, just the open world. Uh, then there are regular bosses, which, just like any other game. But two that are not in that document that I have not talked about yet is world bosses, which are like mini bosses, but they take uh 3 days to respawn because they take anywhere from 10 to 20 people to take it down. And it is a raid type event and it's open world. The other type of boss, and the last type of boss, is the dragons that are in the roost. Dragons are now the most apex predator in the earth, and therefore your end game type creatures are going to be dragons. Each dragon has its own roost, and you can usually find the roosts spread out through the different levels. I've already went over the Rune Tarot system. There are tons of status effects, just like regular games. Hacking, I discussed a little bit with you earlier. You can hack AI, biomech, terminal, cameras, companions. Now, you can pick a companion and it will give you a boost. Now, companions are based off of Mobile Task Force, and they are players, or not players, they are NPC that follow you around and give you a boost. Such as one person is a cartographer or a map maker, and so your area of fog is actually farther out. That way you can see more just by having them in your party. Um, Now, the monster companions, your pets, there's a whole system. You can train them, you can breed them, you can store them, you can feed them. You can totally interact as if they're a pet. And there are many ways to breed them. And I'm not going to go over it in this one because it would make this a little bit, it's already starting to get long. Questing, you got your general quest, you got your killing quest, you get your fetch and delivering quest. Time-based, like haunted building, you have a haunted place for a limited amount of time. Digital-based, which is computer, you get sucked into it. We already talked about alignments and the vision system. Reflections. Some creatures only appear in reflections like mirrors, mud, water, blood, glass, metal, special reflections, and it gives a new element to it. That way you have to use your wits to kill some of these ones. Well, I'll just go over the different types of visions. You got aura, which is magical. You got reflections. You got warm. You got that will see heat. You got cold that will see the cold. You got gas that will see any type of acid, whether it be air or a puddle. Electric, which allows you to see like electrical devices and traps. Night mode will allow you to see in dark, and it has like black with shades of green. Echo um, uses echolocation, and things like ghosts will not appear on this type of site. But it is pretty black and white, and so I don't recommend it unless you are trying to search for something else, because in the Echo, you also get to see what objects you can interact with. So that is a bonus to the Echo one. Oxygen. Well, in oxygen mode, you can see whether or not an area is safe to be in. If there's no oxygen, it will start to kill you. And I think that's all I'm gonna go over in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Try not to make it too long.